Hello, welcome. My name is BunBun if you don't know who I am. And today, this video is going to be a little winded, I will warn you. I am going to put out warning disclosures as there will be some pretty messed up things that happened and will have to be unfortunately said. As recently, not really that recently, about a month ago or so, I was blamed for cornering somebody in this story I'm going to tell you about. And I triggered a trauma. I'm going to be real and upfront. Both this individual and myself had trauma triggered. This is about a tabletop session. The last one, not really that I partook of, but the second to the last. And I'm not here to debate anyone's trauma or argue about intent. I'm simply going to explain how this tabletop session was structured and how the scene unfolded. Actually, all the scenes have unfolded from my point of view as a player. I will say generally we have consent sheets and have the ability to supposed to pause or redirect scenes at any moment and whenever there's any discomfort that happens. I also understand that people can experience scenes differently, especially in emotionally charged tabletop environments. And I can only speak of my own actions and what I understood from them. My understandings during this session and all sessions I've been a part of was that boundaries were supposed to be respected as they were raised. And I will call out times as to when I attempted to flag specific scenes. Also, tabletop conflicts are best handled within the table or through platform moderation, not through public speculation, and that's why I'm not engaging beyond explaining the structure and my experience here. Beyond that, I don't believe public debate is the right place to resolve tabletop conflicts in general. I will also state that many times I had spoken up and told an individual who was begging and asking me to join this session, no, I do not want to join the session. And why I didn't want to. I didn't like the person who was being a storyteller. Plain as that. Time after time, they go in my DMs. They're looking for another player. Then they would say, just how, things were going on in it and everything like that. And, how they were causing chaos in it. And how the story is just not being a story, basically. I also put in moments as to, it seemed like other players were kind of having issues within it. And I stood my ground. I kept saying, no, it's against my integrity. I'm not going to join something if I'm not going to feel safe and comfortable myself. Eventually a line was said to me, if you join, we could just be in the group chat and just talk. I'm going to say it and talk shit during the whole entire time. And I caved. I was like, fine. Because I knew eventually it was just not going to just stop. I was going to be continued to be asked over and over and over again. Even after saying no so many times. As we get into the story, I'm going to refer to people that was part of it as player 1, player 2, player 3, and storyteller. Not going to mention anybody by name. And I will refer to myself as player or as the character that I play now. Now, when I got into hold with the storyteller, they told me what type of character they wanted. They wanted a tech-driven character. So I made one for them. I also put a little spin on it because I wanted to, one, have a character to be challenging with for me as a player, because I've been doing joining tabletop sessions for a few years now. And I wanted to be able to see the ability of what I can do, what I can't do with this character, and see how the dice will prevail. Because honestly, with these things, the dice is what has the final say. Sure, yes, the storyteller can be like, I didn't see that roll again, but that's not as common. That's not very common at all. My character, he went by the name Dragon Dope. Just a light blue-haired boy who wears glasses, he doesn't need glasses, he just wears them because he thinks it makes him look more cooler and nerdier. who still lives with his mom. And due to his actions, his hackings and stuff like that, and getting into big trouble with the big bad group Pentex, which he doesn't know that's who he's been, like, honestly screwing over to get money for, was always trying to find ways to make money for his mom. And they moved many, many times. They lived in Japan for like 5 years, where he took up the time to learn Japanese until they got kicked out. And then his mom was offered a job in Australia, even though it was like 13 hours away. But that's where they ended up next. Now, mind you, I'm going to put drug warning out right now. I'm also going to put sexual warning out right now. And also kind of a gore warning, too. My character always has been trying to find the next big high, or like an adrenaline type of thing. And that's how he kind of like gets his hacking stuff done. Now, this is not to glorify drugs or anything like that, because I personally don't think that drugs should be, even if they're illegal in certain areas. I'm not against people, smoking, marijuana or anything like that. But I don't think it should be glorified in any sense of a story. Now, he has the ability to fight off the drugs, honestly. He has the ability to not go under the full effects of said things. I made sure he had that, because he only does things, like I said, it's just to kind of get him excited, get him motivated, have him basically feel, right? Now, this is a story about werewolves, all right? Or guru. So, supernaturals, yes. We finally started off, after my character being created, of course, in a cafe. My character's on a laptop, trying to hack into an establishment. Now, this establishment is a veterinary clinic. I'm not going to state as to why he's doing it quite yet, because not even the players really know. Players 1 through 3 didn't know. The storyteller did, yes. Dragon is drinking a espresso of some kind and trying to get into like the feed and everything, trying to locate where a specific room is for, and failed. We made some rolls and they were not quite enough. During this time, because this was just a scene of my character, players 1 through 3 were just butting in. Now, I will say it is exciting when you get a new player at the table, because even I get excited whenever they're like, oh my god, so-and-so is going to be here, or we're going to have a special guest today, and generally we can figure out who the special guest is, because it always results into this one person. So I understand the energy, I understand the feeling of excitement and everything like that, and I'm not putting blame onto that, because I get it. But during the scene, which I'm trying to concentrate for, trying to make my rolls for, eventually they made the joke of my character wearing diapers, because he's a hacker, and joking and having fun, and all that jazz. Consistently just derailing everything. Now, as a fellow derailer of sessions, which I will admit, I usually don't. I try not to interrupt scenes, unless it's like one of those where you want to make a quick crack joke, that's about it. But this was going on for the whole entire time. This scene that should have been like a short 20, maybe not even 20-minute scene, was a lot longer than that. And I was actually starting to get annoyed, I will admit. But I never retaliated at any of these individuals. At least not in this moment. Because I understand. My character gets up to leave. And he packs everything up. Came to find out that this place, I didn't know that this place used reusable cups, because I thought it was going to be a paper cup. And so we had a 5-minute explanation as to what this cafe had, wise. Because a lot of places here in the States, we like a lot of garbage. So I was like, I'll just throw my cup away. And they're like, no, it's a ceramic cup. And I was like, okay, well then I'll put it in whatever, reciprocal we need to put it into. And carry on my day. I go and have Dragon go get his little scooter that he has and tries to head closer to this veterinarian clinic. Still the diaper jokes are coming. Storyteller not once saying, hey guys, stop, or anything like that. We get to said location, but we don't get too close to the actual building itself. Just to the fact that I feel like I would have Dragon feel that because it seemed like the security was a little tough for a place, that maybe they probably for sure have cameras on about the building. So right before he got really close to it, he has the ability to basically take on someone's face. He made himself look like the barista that's at said coffee shop. And he hides the scooter and some other things. Well, actually, before he does that, he tries to hack into the building again. Can't do it. And then he hides his things in a bush and gets to the behind the building. He goes back to like an exit door and like a fire exit door, knowing damn well if he does do anything to it, there'll probably be alarms for it because generally there are. Or at least the door says that they are. I never actually pushed on one, so I really honestly don't know. And I had him use the ability to phase through walls because he had that. And what it does is, because he's a werewolf, it kind of puts a thing called the umbra between the layers of the building. And it's just like literally a teleportation. It's like you're literally just walking through the walls like a ghost. He slowly goes in to make sure he doesn't get caught. And to also try and see if there is like some kind of like a map on the wall. Kind of like in a case of emergency. That way he can understand the layout of the place. And then we had to get into a like 5-minute thing of that's not required in Australia or something like that. Which I would think for fire purposes, there usually always is one. But honestly, I don't know how their architect is there, And I will say, if you're the one that recorded this session, and at any moments you want to prove me wrong, I challenge you to post the full entire session on your YouTube channel. Because from here on out, everyone that's watching, it gets really messed up. It changes. It will. I'm just warning right now. As we get back into the story, player 1 through 3 still not active yet. We find the door to the room that we're looking for. The room has drugs in it. It's a veterinary clinic. It's going to have drugs. We try to find a way to see if, one, we can put in, if we can notice, fingerprints, just some weird, silly little sci-fi, not really sci-fi, but, not James Bond, but kind of there's these fingerprints, we can try to get in this way, maybe we can figure out the code. But I was told that if we do try to do that, then an alarm will go off. So I made a roll, for a tech roll. It did not go through. It did not work. So I was like, then I would just take it apart. I would just take the keypad apart. And my character had a little screwdriver set on them and took the keypad apart. Was able to get in that way. I had to make a roll to put it back together again to see how well it was put back together. And at this moment, I was kind of hoping to, accidentally break the keypad. But that didn't happen. Just because I wanted to see how it was going to happen, what was going to take place afterwards, and how it would be told, basically, But my character doesn't realize, Dragon, that there was something it was a little off. Just teeny tiny. In reality, if you're an individual, you honestly would not notice. Honestly. So my character's inside this storage room, getting ready and find where the drugs are at, and starts loading up a bag. Now players 1 through 3 are active. They're walking down the hallway after whatever mission that they were on. I, as a player, did not know what mission they were on or anything like that, because honestly, my character wouldn't know, so why would I need to know? The storyteller had them roll an awareness wits, which you roll an awareness wits if basically to notice something out of place, or basically if you need to see if you notice someone Player 1 through 3, well, 1 and 3 failed. Player 2 succeeded. Player 2 was told that he notices that the keypad was off, and gave an excuse as to why they would know that the keypad wasn't correct. And so player 2 alerted player 1 and 3. Player 1 triggers right away on it. Reacts right away. Sneaks into the room. And I rolled an awareness wits just to see if I noticed. Dragon does notice. Quickly hides the bag under a shelf. And creates a portal into a place that's called like an, it's like an Umbra pocket. It's like a little spot where he can hide into to basically, evade. Now, he is stuck in that spot. If he was to leave, he comes out the same area that he enters into. So he hides the bag of drugs under a shelf. And he goes into his little hidey hole. And player 1 searches the whole entire room. Notices that there are some drugs missing. And goes on alert, which is fair and which is valid. Player 1 then goes to player 2 and 3 and tells them that drugs were taken and that there were no signs of exiting, I guess, which I don't know how you would honestly assume that. Player 1 basically tells 2 and 3 to look at the cameras, look at the security feed, and that he'll stay inside looking for like any signs of water because they think that it's supernatural. Especially after the fact that they had somebody that they know was murdered or something like that. And then he was going to look for water. There was no water because dragons' abilities don't require any kind of water. And player 1 then proceeds to grab a chair, sit inside, and wait out to see if anybody's in there. To me, that's basically metagaming. They don't see if nobody left yet. Nothing. Player 2 and 3 goes into and sees the security feed. They see the barista coming into the place, kind of phasing through, and they don't see anybody leave. And it's confirmation right there that the person, the individual that is that took the drugs, are indeed still inside the building somewhere, or at least still inside that room. They tell that to player 1. And player 1 triggers their ability to basically go invisible, and basically it becomes a waiting game. They go back to player 2 and 3 in their scene, and they're doing whatever they need to do in the meantime. I'm trying to figure out whatever they got. It's the details I really don't know due to the fact that my characters are not a part of it. When it came back to basically my scene, I was like, no, I'm going to stay until it's closing time because there's somebody in the room. We're going to try and wait it out. And I was told, well, it's a veterinary clinic. They're basically open 24 hours. And I was like, well, usually shift change happens. And during the night, it's usually a lot slower. So I'm going to stay in as long as I can. Now, mind you, when you're in the Umbra, time goes by differently. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to make a silly gaffe and have my character take a sock off, and he just starts basically gooning in the Umbra. Now, player 1, wanting to clearly catch my character so badly, also said the same thing. And with his ability, you're not supposed to be moving to, if you move, you won't be invisible anymore. So they said, I'm also going to be doing the same thing, except I'm going to be barely moving. So that way I don't get out of basically camouflage. Because so far right now, that scene is stale and at a standstill moment. They go back to player 2 and 3. We're trying to figure things out. And they're getting into like information and finding out. Oh, I think they had like a hard drive or something like that. Just something. Player 2 and 3 is doing, something TM. During this time, as a player, I knew that my character was in danger. I know how player 1 plays. And player 1 is very aggressive with their plays. And this next part will definitely prove that. it cuts back to Dragon, my character, and I went to do basically a premonition type of ability just to see if there's a threat and if it's gone or not, and if it's safe to get out. I rolled a 6 on that, which was really good. And all I got was, there's a shadow figure right behind you. That was literally all I got. And there was probably one more small detail, but that was it. At that moment, I knew I was trapped. I can't do anything. I built Dragon on a point of being able to attempt to get out at any situation, just because that's basically who he is. A stealth type of character. He's not a fighter. So I get out of the Umbra Pocket and make a roll for an awareness wits. I had failed that. And I was like, you know what? We're at a veterinarian clinic. Why not turn it to a dog? Because dogs, you know, they wander, right? They're curious creatures. So have a dog, be a dog, and have someone think that he got locked in there. You know, not medding, because I know that player 1 is in there. No. So we shift down into dog, which is a Shiba Inu. We walk past the invisible character, player 1, and we start pawing at the door. Like, oh my god, pardon me, I'm a little dog, I'm lost, I'm stuck in this room. Help, you know, type of thing. Player 1 notices a dog, goes on instant attack mode, uses some like talon claws, and just straight up attacks my character. And here's the gore part. My character, Dragon, as a dog, gets mauled into the back. Extremely damaged, extremely in pain, and basically near immobile. Dragon, now knowing that he is in an extremely dangerous predicament, and that this was the shadow, that's what he was warned about. I decided to try to make light of this whole entire fight. Well, actually, it wasn't even really a fight. It was a one-sided fight. And was like, I throw the goon sock at player 1. And that makes him even more mad. So then he goes, grab whatever left of the drugs was in the shelf, and puts in a syringe to put my character to sleep. My character is like near death, and to the point to where like any rolls I was to make, there was literally a debuff on all the rolls, because that's how being a werewolf is. Player 1 then proceeds to attempt to drug my character Dragon. Puts a shot in him. I made the roll to have that not have any effects, because that's what he has. It's just to make sure that he doesn't, you know, with anything. And especially with knowing that we're going to be at a freaking vet place, it was something I definitely wanted to have, regardless of my character doing drugs. I had my character wink at player 1, which couldn't mean anything, but he took it to the fact of like metagaming of, oh, you little shit, that it clearly didn't work. Now, I will tell you, a lot of metagaming does happen in this session, rather it being intentional or unintentional. So he goes and grabs a different drug and injects it into my character. I was forced to make another roll and did fail that one, which resulted in my character being just paralyzed. So we are now still Shiba Inu, who is gravely injured and also now paralyzed for sure. If the attack didn't paralyze him, it was definitely from this drug. Player 1 meets with player 2 and 3 and is like found who it was. And then we're all proceeded to go to like, I guess, an open field. Nobody really understood what the setting was at this moment. They started questioning my character, trying to force him out of dog form. My character, you know, basically just barking at them and barking in a Japanese dialect, because one, he's from Japan, and if any of the players had the ability to understand animals, if they didn't know the language that he was saying, they wouldn't understand what he was saying. The storyteller got impatient, got upset because they were expecting my character to just fully shift out of form and be like, oh my god, don't, I'm just a little druggy guy who just was stealing drugs, blah, blah. That's what he was expecting to happen. That didn't happen. That's not what people who do drugs will do at all. So storyteller goes and tries to look for an ability to pull somebody out of basically a shapeshift form. We have access to many books for abilities and all that. The website that we're using for the tabletop, you can basically like look through there. He spent minutes to find this ability, and he finds it. And he creates a random NPC of having this ability. And I laugh because it's like, really? So this random NPC who has no name forces my character out of, basically it's a lupus form, you know, of being a Shiba Inu. These guys then see a young, light blue haired boy. Well, he's not really a boy, but you know, young man with glasses on, tied up, really messed up still. Hasn't had the time to really heal up or anything, or attempt to heal up. On death's door. Player 1's character is like, oh, they're kind of cute. And at this moment, we start messaging each other. And player 1 was like, I don't know what's going on. And I'm just thinking like, yeah, clearly you literally just attacked my character. You know. And player 3 is hounding my character, trying to get information out of him. Them assuming, and I don't know why, that a person who is stealing drugs at a vet clinic would be their murderer. They were going on and on about it. And then my character was like, looks at them. Do I look like a murderer to you? Disregarding that phrase, that upset player 3. Or at least their character, I should say. Their character then proceeded to say, I will get you to talk. And tells them that I'm going to get truth serum. Which I'm going to tell you guys right now. A veterinarian clinic would not have truth serum on standby. Truth serum is not even a real drug. It is a Hollywood drug to get people to talk. And does not proceed to have the same effects as what Hollywood basically has. In the meantime, I made a roll, which is a 2. I got 2 successes, which basically I can fight any drugs that are implemented into my system. And I'm going to tell you right now, that roll for days, the storyteller and player 3 was just stuck on for no reason. Because storyteller would have allowed, because player 3 is storyteller's spouse or significant other, would have allowed it to work. Which, I get it, it's a fantasy world anyways. But if we want to go about logistics, and we did go over this, that Australia did stop in 2018 of using any kind of drugs to force people to talk. Because it was inhumane. It was not... You're forcing someone against their will to do something, right? Even if it does or does not do it, okay? But player 3 proceeds to leave the scene to go get said drug. Player 2 decides to do some kind of weird scare ability on my character. And I had to make, I think, a composure skill, which being as messed up and how I use my abilities, which is triggering basically a thing called willpower, wasn't able to have any success in it. We had to all go over what the ability does, and generally we do not. Usually the storyteller would just say what it does, and that is the end of it. No, in this instance, we had to go over it. And basically because I failed the roll, my character was scared. And I was like, yeah, Dragon is scared. He pisses himself. You can visually see he's scared. At this moment, you know, knowing that he's almost on death's door, knowing that these individuals would not let him go, he was literally on the verge of death. At this point, around this time, I made a statement of, I know exactly the words that I said, because it was out of annoyance, in a sense, because one, the storyteller had no direction to go with it. His only direction was for me saying, I was stealing your drugs because of this. And I was actually, like, literally, after I said something, after I was like, this is bullshit. I'm pretty sure that's what I said. This is bullshit. Literally, you guys are torturing, you're gonna be torturing my character. And I was fully expecting them to do so. I mean, he's already tortured. He's already been paralyzed. His back is cut open. Like, stuff is showing on his back. He's bleeding out. You know, it's a pretty serious wound that he has, especially now in human form. And the only way he can heal up is, one, if he's in human form, he goes to the hospital, or he shifts into basically, you know, direwolf or man dog. It came to the point where my character, Dragon, is literally a dog trapped in a corner. Had nowhere to go, nothing to do. Couldn't figure anything out. Tied up. I forgot to tell that. Yeah, my character's tied up, by the way. And so I had him shift. It was the only thing I was able to think of. One, to also heal himself, and to also run away. That was our main focus, was to run away. This stuff was not supposed to happen. Like, at all. And in the end, I will say right now, this scene was blamed. I was blamed for it all. And I should have, like I said, oh, I'm just a little, you know, druggie who just selling drugs for my drug dealer. Because that's all how he wanted it to play out. I then told player 1 and 2, actually no, we're going to take a step back. I tried to break free from the ropes. As a big werewolf, by the way. I had to make a roll for it, for tiny ropes. And what the storyteller said was that it was a fight to get out of it, but you were able to get free from it. And I was like, okay, you know. And then these two, player 1 and 2, of course, they get on guard, you know, and wanted to, I believe, like, attack if needed. And I had to tell them, this looks like a scared dog who just wants to get out, who just wants to run away. Because that's what my character looked like. So right before I was able to actually run off, player 1 grabs hold of my character, straddles my character, rubbing every part of his body all over my character, because he has this flaw to where he has like a unique scent and you can't get it off of yourself. So that way they're able to track him. He then proceeds to let go of Dragon, and Dragon runs away. Dragon leaves the scene. Dragon does get his stuff and everything, and whatever drugs that he actually did have on him, and just is gone now. Player 2 then, I don't want to say it was annoyed, but seemed kind of worried about letting go of my character, especially when player 3 came back. Player 3 returns with the truth serum and is like upset because now they notice that Dragon's gone. This individual's now gone. Gets mad at the other two. Why'd you let them go? I was going to have them, you know, spew the whole truth. And I'm pretty sure player 1 was like, I don't think this individual, you know, knows what's going on. But player 3 didn't want to have it. And it came to the point to where player 2 decides to go into a bloodhound and just track my character. Player 2 leaves the scene. Player 1 and 3 are now together. And player 3 was trying to meta and stated, I want to go find the drugs under the shelf. Or I'm going to go grab the drugs under the shelf. I had to step in and say, that's metagaming. You don't know if any of the drugs are in there. You definitely don't know if the drugs are under the floor or under a shelf. Player 3 then proceeded to say, well, I want to see then if there is any drugs left. So they go into the room where the drugs are in, the storage room, and they do an awareness wits. They don't find it at all. This bag of drugs is nowhere to be known. They then call the police, and player 1 strictly stated, I don't want to have contact with the cops. I don't want to be around them when it happens. Player 3 understood. Storyteller ignores that boundary. Cops show up, and they only call the cops so that way they can file an insurance claim for the missing drugs, which is a valid response, a valid action to do. And the cop then also kind of questions player 1, and player 1 tries to like lead him away, trying to get away from the cop. And also because the fact that they know that player 1 and player 2, I will say, are siblings. And I need you to remember that. Other things were exchanged during that scene, but what was on my mind was to get out, and the audacity, honestly, that the storyteller had in regards of what player 1 said with not wanting to be with the police. And so we go to Dragon, back to Dragon. He meets up with his drug dealer and kind of forces the drugs that he has at the guy. And it's like, don't ever ask me to do something like that ever again. And you don't understand the hell that I went through just trying to get this. The dealer does not know that he is a werewolf or anything like that. And Dragon's not upset because they weren't expecting it to have other supernaturals there, basically. Like, it just seemed like a normal veterinarian clinic. Dragon then proceeds, I'm going to go home. I'm going to be on Call of Duty or whatever, shooter game TM here. And if you want to join, you know, I'll be on. And he goes home. Player 2, now trying to follow the scent, gets to a certain point and then loses track of said scent. And at this moment, I was like, oh, okay. Maybe the storyteller is literally, allowing my character to get away. I'm like, okay, that's, I know they're going to end up trying to find me again anyways, but, have this moment of freedom, I guess. Player 2 gets a hold of these guys, and, no, I think they end up meeting him. And it's like, I lost the scent. I don't know where they're at. I can't locate them. And they were annoyed with that information because, like, there should have been no way that the scent was lost because of, like, the flaw that player 1 has. You could take a shower, you're still gonna have their scent on you. We go to my character, Dragon, and he gets in a Discord call, plays some, Call of Duty or whatever TM with the dealer, because the dealer is his only friend in Australia at this moment. And they play for a little bit, and my guy's like, I'm gonna go take a shower, I'm gonna go relax and whatever. And they're like, okay. And he does. He goes, takes a shower, and due to the fact that what was said in DMs, before this, player 1 sends a DM stating, I'm going to fuck Dragon and his mom. And then I was like, well, don't give Dragon a sibling because he doesn't want that. Honestly ignoring the fact that was said about wanting to fuck my character. And I was like, alright, you know what? Let's just see. Let's just do this. I was like, while he's taking a shower, he's thinking about what happens at the clinic. He's thinking about how player 1's character rubbed all over him. And, I might be into that. Honestly, which is a valid trauma response for anybody. And especially after being literally brutally mauled. This is just one of those showers. Like, I just needed to try and get this way. But I think I might enjoy that. I might have enjoyed that. And it's not like player 1's character and player 2's character were like, quote unquote, pretty good looking individuals, right? My character, who has no actual sexuality at this point because he's literally a virgin, and just being like, okay, maybe. But I don't think anything will come of it. Then gets out of the shower, realizes that it's such a silly thing to think, and proceeds to actually do his heroin. Ties the arm with the, with the band, lays down in bed, doesn't try to fight it, just wants to forget. Just wants to go into a dreamlike state and act like nothing has happened. These guys won't find me, I'm fine. And I was actually given crap for that moment. Player 1 through 3, annoyed by the loss of the scent of my character. Well, not really the scent of my character, but the scent that player 1 put on. Now proceeds to go door to door. Player 1 wanted to go door to door just to find a druggie, or not a druggie, a drug dealer. And knocks on every single door, like specific doors too, like having like a specific look to them. Which I don't know. Oh yeah, because he was trying to find a dealer. That's right, yeah. Because if it had a bad door, it was most likely a person who would probably have a dealer with them. So he finds somebody, a random NPC. It just happens to be a neighbor across from Dragon's house. And player 1 is trying to basically say, hey, do you know where I can get drugs at? Honestly. Which is wild, because I don't know how they could assume anything with a drug dealer or anything like that. Like, my character does not look like... He doesn't look like a junkie, So the neighbor just happens to be across the street of where Dragon lives. And while this is happening, Dragon tries to doze off, try to have a restful, trying to get over the bullshittery that happened, and gets a phone call from his mom. He answers it in a tired stupor, and this whole conversation on the phone is extremely confusing, still is confusing. And she was like, can you check outside for a package for me? There should have been a parcel delivered today. Dragon, wanting to help his mom out, was like, yeah, I can go look, even though he wouldn't have known if a package would have been delivered. He goes and looks outside, and he sees player 1 at least. And then he closes the door and locks it up. The phone call to his mom kind of like just stops. It just ends. And it was clearly how it was explained. That phone call was supposed to represent your mom is in danger. No, that phone call clearly was to be seen by players 1 through 3. He quickly closes the door and locks the door and goes down into his room. And literally is afraid. Like, they found me. They know where I'm at. But at the same time, no, I don't think they know where I'm at. What are the odds? So he goes, lays back down, and hears a knock on the door. The neighbor across the street was like, oh yeah, you can't trust the kid next door. He never leaves the house. And I clearly think that he would do drugs. Some weird freaking crap. So player 1 proceeds to go to Dragon's house, knocks on it. I think he does like a normal knock at first or something like that. No, he does an anime themed knock. Now, when you're under any kind of intoxication, whether it be drugs or alcohol, it's an intoxication. Everything is kind of like a dreamlike state. It almost seems unreal, right? And hearing the hearing the knock like that was like a moment of, oh yeah, this is definitely a dream. Like, what the heck? Just like disregarding that these players 1 through 3 was outside. He goes and answers the door and sees player 1 at it. Drags player 1 on the inside of the house to hopefully not be seen by players 2 through 3 and kind of like push them up against the door. Not really rough. My dude is not even that strong. Okay, he's just a little guy. Thinking it's a dream. And you know what? Why not have just a teeny tiny bit of fun? And he kisses the guy. Just trying to see. Maybe, And player 3 chimes in because player 1 said something suggestive. I don't remember quite what it was, but in this moment I knew that my character was possibly going to get raped. Because just because you kiss somebody, intoxicated or not, does not mean that it always needs to lead to having intercourse. Player 3 chimes in which I'm actually thankful for. And it's like, this is non-consensual. They are intoxicated. They are under the influence. It's non-consensual. I had a deep sigh of relief. I was like, thank goodness. So player 1 kind of like pushes, not really like one of those like get the frick off me pushes, but like pushes him back a little bit and looks at Dragon to see if like why is he acting the way he is, right? And they came to find out after their own kind of judgment, after seeing, you know, like a mark and stuff like that, like, okay, yeah, this individual is definitely under the influence. At this point, I got a DM of basically, if player 3 did not barge in, something would have happened, type of thing. Player 1 then proceeds to take Dragon to the bathroom and throws him in the shower, turns the shower on, and to basically try to sober him up. And because he's a, you know, aware of a guru, it wouldn't be that hard to honestly sober him up. The door's unlocked, and player 2 and 3 come in. No damn reason for them to do so, but they come inside. Player 2 still dog, player 3 human form, of course. And they proceed to eat meat sticks. So basically like a Slim Jim, honestly. Or beef jerky. And my character freaks out because, oh my god, it wasn't a dream. And I think I just kissed this guy. And is like freaking out, right? He's literally spazzing out. And then player 3 screams from the living room and is like, we're here as well, you know. Scares my character even more. He goes and tries to lock the bathroom door. And was blocked because player 1's character is pretty massive. Like, not like extremely huge, but pretty massive. It's a good size. Player 1 was like, we're not here to attack you or anything like that. We just want to talk. And my character was like, I'm not talking to the other two. If you want to talk, that's fine. But we're not talking in here, not in the bathroom. We then proceed to lead player 1 into Dragon's bedroom. And before this session started, I made sure that the storyteller knew that it had a basement. This house is a basement because that's where Dragon's room was at. Player 3 decides to chime in and saying, Australia doesn't have basements. And I had to chime in, yes, this house does, and you just pay a lot more money for it, which you do. They don't have basements because there's a lot of flooding. You can still have one, but you are paying a lot of money for it. Player 2 chimes in, is like, it is possible to have a basement. And player 3 just couldn't get over it and was obsessed over it. And I was like, honestly, I'm not fighting over it. But if you don't think this place doesn't have a basement, then that's what you think. And I'm not going to, you know, force any change of mind with you. Because I wasn't going to fight anybody. Dragon and player 1 are now in his bedroom. And player 1 changes their clothes because, oh, not player 1. Oh my god, my character changes clothes because he's soaking wet, right? He just had a shower with his clothes on to wake him up. And player 1 proceeds to give him, like, Shakira merch as, like, a sign of, hey, we can be allies or something like that, or for forgiveness or something. It's weird. I don't understand. And my character doesn't know who Shakira is because he's literally a basement dweller. That's all he is, you know? So my character is just like, yeah, sure, you know, thanks for this. And I still don't know who this Shakira person is. To player 1. Eventually they go and sit down on Dragon's bed. Player 1 was like, I just want you to be honest as to why you're at the clinic. As to why you're taking the drugs or whatever. And being this bedroom being a safe space, he felt like he would be able to tell this guy why. And I don't think he told him where the drugs were hiding at either. I don't think he did. Some of the drugs, of course. And was telling him, well, like I told you, I'm not a murderer. I don't know who this person is that you're talking about who murdered whoever. I'm not the guy. I only went to that establishment because the guy who supplies drugs hasn't had any product or hasn't been in contact with my dealer in a while. and we're just trying to find another way to get drugs, and figured that the veterinarian clinic would be an easy spot to get it versus trying to actually go at a hospital. And that he meant no harm to these guys. Player 1 seemed understanding, and they just kind of had just like more of a talk. And right then and there, player 1 was able to figure out that Dragon was a mama's boy. Or rather, honestly, submissive. Player 1 asks for my character's phone and puts in a phone number. And is like, let's go on a date tomorrow morning. Which kind of threw both me and my character kind of like, what? Okay, you know. But there was intentions behind this quote-unquote date. And he did an ability onto my character and was like, and I need you to promise me that you won't do drugs. And this ability was only supposed to last for so long. And my character was like, okay, I promise. Even though he wasn't going to promise that. He don't know this fucking guy. How else would this guy know if I did drugs or not? And I then had Dragon ask him to get his friends out of my house and to lock the front door. And that's what happened. The next day comes around, and player 1 and player 2 shares a bedroom. And player 1 gets up and is like, yeah, I have a date with the kid. And player 2 is like, their name is Dragon. Which I don't remember how player 2 even know the name. I don't remember. So which was kind of cute, you know, just being like, this is their name, by the way. And reminds them that, hey, you have a thing tonight as well. So don't forget that. And goes to Dragon's house to proceed to pick Dragon up. Dragon dressing for the quote-unquote date. Doorbell or whatever, knock on the door. It's player 1. And they walk them to the car, opens up the car door, allows them to sit in, closes the door, and goes to the driver's side. Heads over to the coffee shop. At the coffee shop, Dragon was told to go find a table. Dragon did, and was asked, what does Dragon drink? And Dragon told him an espresso. And player 1 proceeds to order the drinks. He then goes and sits across from Dragon out of the booth. And is like, I got something for you. And hands over an envelope. Now I'm going to warn you guys right now. Content warning. Dom session. Me and player 1 are the only ones that are in control of this right now. The storyteller is not. The storyteller is just, not even storyteller, they're just an audience at this point. My Dragon opens up the envelope, notices a collar, and it's not like a bad looking one either. And player 1 was like, I want you to wear that, and I want you to never take it off. And so player 1 puts the collar on to Dragon, and then proceeds to tell him, basically, you're not to speak unless I tell you to, and you're supposed to call me daddy or master or something like that. And right here at this moment was extremely uncomfortable. And if you know me, I laugh at every single emotion. It is just what happens when things get, especially if they get uncomfortable. And it's like, it's a trauma response. Even if you guys come to my streams, you'll notice. And I've been trying to kind of like work in on that and to try and prevent it. So this scene goes on. Player 1 is acting all dominant. Is making vomit sounds. And at this point, I was like, you know what? I get it. You know, I started laughing, especially at this point, because I was like, it's because, 1, I'm not their spouse. I'm not their significant other. I understand. I get it. You know? And I thought that's what that whole entire, like, that bit. I thought it was a bit, you know? So I was, like, laughing some more because I was like, yeah, no, I get that. And then he made my character change our Discord name And because I'm pretty sure his name was like Hackermans or something like that. And then to also send a picture to the drug dealer and to change the profile picture as well. And Dragon did all that. Then player 1 was like, the reason why we came here is because I'm meeting somebody. And, which was weird. And Dragon was like, okay. And, it was a journalist guy. This journalist dude shows up, NPC. Player 1 makes Dragon sit next to him, arm around him, and also dials up players 2 and 3 to listen on this conversation as well. The journalist guy hands over like a phone and some stuff, and player 1 was like, yeah, we have somebody who can get into the phone to get whatever, and which is crazy for that information to be known. And the whole ordeal, there was like a manila envelope was given and stuff like that. The journalist then leaves, and I'll be real with you, I did not pay a lick of attention at all. Nothing. I just could not. And then Dragon was told that I want you to look like this guy after you get into this phone and make an appointment with somebody. And I want you to basically go into this dangerous situation, which can get my character killed, or could have. And I want you to get into this phone and, all this stuff. Just really demanding my character to do all these things. And it was like kind of like one of those things, like, if you do it, then we may forgive you or whatever. It was very, I don't know. And me as a player, I was like, oh my god, I'm not even going to remember how this guy even acted like. But even though if I rolled for it and I succeed in the quote-unquote performance, it wouldn't have mattered anyways. And so he's on the phone with player 2 and 3, tells him what happens, tells him that we got a phone, that Dragon's going to get into it, get the information they need. Dragon's going to portray as the journalist, and, XYZ. Player 1 proceeds to take my character home and drops him off. And the whole entire time driving, he's still on the phone, by the way, with player 2s and 3. And this is why he was on the phone with them still. He was afraid that my character was going to attack him. At no point did my character ever made any actions towards attacking. The only quote-unquote attack that he did was kiss this guy. That was it. That was the only form of attack. Now, players 1 and 3 had the day off from their vet clinic. So, player 1 drives off, goes to the home that him and his brother share. The brother is like playing video games or something like that. And player 3 is like sending pictures to their quote-unquote fiance. And player 1 was like, alright, I'm going to get ready for my date. Which, yes, another date. And he also invites his brother in on it too. Because they're trying to get information from this individual that they're inviting over. My character at home gets everything all hooked up. Also shoots up heroin. Because that's his way of trying to concentrate. Because he wants the high. He wants the feeling of adrenaline. And kind of like, it's like an inspiration type thing, but not. Alright, I don't want to put it like that. Just because it's just not how stuff should be used as. And being a supernatural, you can only get so much, like, adrenaline, honestly. Especially with boring human day-to-day things, okay? He gets into the phone after, is able to also not fall under the full influences of heroin. And he finds the messages and everything. And he starts messaging. Gets the date and time for a meetup. Takes a picture of it with his phone to send over to player 1. And then actually proceeds to also go through the phone. I mean, what else are you gonna do? He stumbles upon a murder scene. And it was the murder scene. And he gets sick, because he's never been a part of, the murder scene. The only murder scene he's been a part of was when he killed his dad, who was beating his mom when he was first turning into a werewolf. And he gets really ill to his stomach, and I was like, he goes to the bathroom and he gets sick. But he sends the messages, and of course, player 1 gets said messages. And then player 1 asks Storyteller, did Dragon do drugs? Can I sense that? Storyteller was like, yes, you sense it. He did drugs. Player 1 character gets annoyed, gets upset over the fact, because, Dragon promised him. And he did an ability on him, which was not a long-term ability, by the way. It was one of those short-term ones. And kind of just shrugs it off until this rat guy comes in. This rat guy NPC comes in. And here is a content warning. An explicit, extremely sexualized sex scene. I'm not going to go into the details of it, just because it should have been curtains, and it wasn't. Before the exchange of fucking this rat man, player 1 FaceTimes my character. My character answers and was told to not hang up. You have to watch this whole thing. And not knowing what was going to happen, and he sat and was like, okay. And what you see is 2 brothers having sex with this NPC. Both of them taking turns, just going at it. Storyteller's quiet this whole entire time. Player 3 is worried that Storyteller is making sure that they're okay. Storyteller chimes in, kind of weird and awkward, and is like, yeah, I'm okay. And at this point, my character then is hiding behind his chair, trying not to watch, but I have to watch type of thing. I, as a player, was uncomfortable with this, because I was told in the past that generally the sex scenes would be kind of cartoony. It was not cartoony. Eventually, the rat man, because he shifts into a rat or something like that, was fucked so well that he passes out. Player 1 goes to his phone and goes to Dragon and threatens him, basically stating, don't go against my promises ever again, and hangs up. They get his wallet and the information, and honestly, the stuff that they got was just a red herring anyways. It wasn't even anything useful at all. When it came to my turn to have my last scene, basically, Dragon goes and takes a shower with his clothes on, sits in the shower, and cries. I think player 1 kind of felt bad and was like, I find a teddy bear, and I sent a picture to Dragon. And it kind of makes my character feel a little better, but still trying to process all this that happened, and it's just like, this has been the most wild 24 hours ever. Eventually, it is over with. The session is over with. It was like 8 to 10 hours long. And during the collared moment, this player 1 messages and is like, I hope you're okay. So is player 2. And I was like, no, this is fine, because I know you won't take it out or to go any further with what's happening. I know that you would stop. It didn't happen. Now, a lot of the silent moments will be cut. Right now, we're at an hour and a half. It will probably be a lot shorter than that. But near the end of it all, I was blamed for everything. Every little bit that happened. A person who had their character basically nearly died, forced to watch a sex scene, and not only that, collared, and was being told that basically, I'm your master now type of thing. There was a video that I made, and it was in regards of this tabletop session, that blew up this whole entire thing that's been happening, and has actually settled down, which it probably picked back up recently. And didn't mention anybody. You wouldn't have known who it was unless you were actually at that session or was with us during the aftermath of it. And a video was made, and The video was to mischaracterize me as an individual, but to also confirm that the feelings I had were valid, and basically it was a hazing of the session. And then later on, after I had one video removed because they used my whole entire video, I had this whole entire thing on Twitter and stated that I cornered them and triggered a trauma response. I will say this. This was to address this tabletop session that has been discussed publicly. I'm not here to dispute anyone's feelings or trauma, because I will say not one of us were the only victims. Player 1 and myself were the victims of this session. I'm simply sharing how the session was structured and how the events unfolded from my own perspective. We generally use consent tools, which would have the ability to pause scenes and or skip scenes, skip the next scene. My understanding at that time was that this tabletop session was operating within those agreed rules. We all had our consent sheets. Beyond that, I don't believe public debate is the right place to resolve tabletop conflicts. I'm not going to proceed any further, but I am slowly coming out and talking about these issues that was portrayed against my own characteristic as an individual. And I will say once again that I've been saying for a while now, I would like to ask individuals to refrain from any harassment, speculation, and or retaliation towards anyone indirectly involved. And I'm also not trying to impose sides. Thank you for watching. Your own interpretation is your own. And this was my interpretation of that tabletop session, where I literally was hazed in. Please have a great day. And if you're player 1, post the video. Post that whole entire session so people can see the actual truth.